Have you ever wondered what would happen if, in the magical night of January 6th, the three kings didn't bring gifts, but instead unleashed unspeakable terror? Martin, a mere 8-year-old boy, was about to discover that the tradition he thought he knew had a hidden darkness lurking beneath. The night promised to be special, filled with excitement and hope, as his family prepared to welcome the kings. However, Martin was different. His curiosity led him to do something no child should ever attempt: stay awake to sneak a glimpse of the legendary beings who brought joy to children's hearts. Eagerly, he settled down in the living room in his pajamas, imagining the magic that would soon fill his home. But what happened at 3 in the morning would change his life forever. Heavy footsteps echoed above, a powerful and ominous sound that made his heart stop for a moment. Martin crept to the window, and what he saw froze his blood. 3 spectral figures, cloaked in tattered robes that seemed woven from darkness itself, stood beneath the pale moonlight. Their rusted, twisted crowns glimmered eerily, but there was no joy in their faces, only a void of shadow. Martin felt a chill run down his spine as he watched each figure move with an unnatural grace. They bore no gifts, but rather large, stained bags that dripped a thick, dark liquid. Martin's curiosity turned to fear as he saw the other children on the street succumb to the call of the other kings. The muffled screams of his neighbors resonated in his mind, as through the walls, the echoes of their wails intertwined into a chilling symphony, announcing that it was not the cherished magi bringing good tidings, but the harbingers of horror. With every deliberate step the shadows took, Martin's heart raced. As one of the figures turned toward his house, Martin felt time freeze. The figure pointed at him, and a frigid dread filled his chest. Its empty eyes seemed to gaze directly into his soul. Unable to look away, he realized that the other kings did not come to offer gifts, but to claim something that belonged to them. They were the guardians of a dark secret, eager to take those who dared to spy on them during their sacred night. Martin's heart raced, and the terror seeped into every corner of his being. In a moment of panic, he wondered if there was any escape from the fate that awaited him. It was then that something inside him rebelled. He could not surrender without a fight. Summoning all his courage, Martin closed his eyes and focused on recalling everything he had loved in his short life. The smell of sweet bread that his mother baked every morning, the games in the park with his friends, the laughter shared around the family table. That tranquility became his refuge. In his mind, he built a barrier against the encroaching darkness. However, the figures continued to advance, each step bringing them closer to the terrified observer. The cries of the children grew louder in his thoughts, as if their souls were crying out for help. In that moment of desperation, he decided to confront them. With a trembling but determined voice, Martin shouted at the approaching shadows. He told them he was just a child, one small among millions. He begged them to let him live, to not take his soul or the souls of any other children. Deep down, he felt that this might be all he had to offer, his pure essence of innocence and hope. To his surprise, the vibrations around him began to diminish. The shadows stopped, and for a brief moment, a faint glow illuminated their dark faces. Perhaps there was a hint of compassion within them, or perhaps they were merely assessing his worth. But suddenly, a frigid wind swept through the room, and the moment dissipated. The figures gazed at one another, as if holding a silent council. Martin felt the air grow heavy with tension and fear once more. A moment later, they began to laugh, a deep, resonant sound that froze his blood. "Those who look are the ones taken," one of them said, its voice like the cracking of dead branches in the wind. With an almost imperceptible motion, they opened their bags, and a dark vapor began to seep from them, enveloping everything around him. Martin knew he could not wait any longer. If he wanted to survive this night, he had to act. With one last cry of defiance, Martin ran toward the door, but just before reaching the hallway, a flash of light burst from outside. It was the morning of January 6th, as sunlight began to filter through the windows. As the light filled the space, the shadows recoiled, their faces filled with rage and disappointment. Yet Martin did not stop. He knew that the daylight was his only chance. With his heart in his throat, he crossed the threshold of his home, traversing the barrier that separated his world from that horror. Once outside, he felt the shadows fade behind him, taking with them the echoes of their screams and the laments of the children who had once been. As dawn broke, the world felt different. Martin stood on the sidewalk, trembling and scared, but alive. There were no gifts, no joy, only the echoes of what could have been. That night had taught him a valuable lesson, one he would never forget. The other kings may have tried to claim him, but his spirit had prevailed. And though his friends and family would never know the truth of what had happened, he would carry that memory in his heart, along with the resolve to never forget that sometimes curiosity can come at a terrifying price. And so, Martin became the keeper of a secret, a boy who had peered behind the curtain of the night and defied the unfathomable. If you ever decide to stay awake on the night of the kings, remember his story. Not everything that glitters brings gifts, and sometimes what lurks in the shadows is the most terrifying of all. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like, comment on what you thought, and subscribe for more tales of terror. The night never truly ends, and there will always be more secrets waiting to be uncovered.